And sound check, sorry. Wala, hindi pala nakakapit yung audio. So, ayan, meron tayong reel na post. So, ito, tayo mo kanina nag-lube na ako dito eh. Record ko lang. Papakinggan ano yung difference. Pasensya nyo na kasi may nagbibideo ako sa labas eh. Ito. Post na natin. Save muna natin as draft kasi kanina, ewan ko. At hindi gumana. Post na natin. Ano to? Ito yung Otemo silent white sound test. No lube. Versus lube. Keyboard lubing. Saka keyboard modding. Popost din natin to sa ano. Pwede ba i-download yung mga reels natin? Pwede yun, di ba? Reels. Na-post ko na. Tignan nyo na lang. May reels tayo doon. So, tuloy natin. Saan na ba tayo nag-stop? I think dito. So, ang nilalagyan ko lang yung top at yung bottom. Mas manipis lang. Medyo ano na. Yung brush ko medyo buka na. Kung may question kayo, post nyo lang. Pa-share na rin ng live. Alam ko ano oras na. Mag-alas 2 na pero let's just try to finish this. Tapos tapusin natin mamaya yung Try natin. Ano ba yan? So, okay yung method na to kaysa yung i-spray. Mas messy kasi yun. So, kung wala kayong time mag-desolder ng switches, ganitong method na lang yung gawin to. Kailangan nyo lang ng EST15. Kaya hirap mag-push. Then, manipis na brush na fine. Then, yung inyong lube. So, depende kung anong gagamitin yung lube nasa inyo na yun. Ito, ano to eh. Rubber silicone lube na Shopee. Hindi siya Krytok. So, ano siya? Bootleg. Pero okay siya for linear. So, natin yung dive. Pagkain ka. So, road 3 na tayo. Road 3. Okay.
My guess is that you're Zoro the pirate hunter.
Zoro.
Kobe! Who is the most beautiful of all on these seas?
Well,
Impressive.
When I pray, I don't ask our Father, please, Father, give me billions of won. Instead, I pray, please give me 40 billion.
Muna tayo Netflix.
Hug me. Hug me tight. Say you love the Lord.
I love you, my lord.
You have such wide hips. You have wide hips, Sujong.
Over in Asia, professional gamers are treated like rock.
My first idea was slip-on shoes, called the post game.
My guess is that you're not Zorro the pirate.
Example, when the robot was going over foam, the feet movements were stomping on the ground, versus when it came on this poly surface, it was trying to adjust, the motion so it doesn't slip. And that is when it strikes you, well, this is what machine learning is bringing to the table. We think the robot dog could be really helpful in disaster response scenarios where you need to navigate many different kinds of terrain, or putting these dogs to do surveillance in harsh environments. But most technology run into the challenge that there is some good that they can do and there's some bad. For example, we can use nuclear technology for energy, but we also could develop atom bombs which are really bad. This is what is known as the dual use problem.
Fire is dual use. Human intelligence is dual use. So, needless to say, artificial intelligence is also dual use.
It's really important to think about AI used in context. Because yes, it's terrific to have a search and rescue robot that can help locate somebody after an avalanche. But that same robot can be weaponized.
When you see companies using robotics for, putting armed weapons on them, a part of you becomes mad. And a part of it is the realization that when we put out technology, this is what's going to happen.
This is a real transformative technology. These are weapon systems that could actually change our safety and security in a dramatic way. As of now, we are not sure that machines can actually make the distinction between civilians and combatants.
Early in the war in Afghanistan, I was part of an Army Ranger sniper team looking for enemy fighters coming across the border. And they sent a little girl to scout out our position. One of the things that never came up was the idea of shooting this little girl. Under the laws of war, that would have been legal. They don't set an age for enemy combatants. If you built a robot to comply perfectly with the law of war, it would have shot this little girl. How would a robot know the difference between what's legal and what is right?
When it comes to autonomous drone warfare, they want to take away the harm that it places on American soldiers and the American psyche. But the increase on civilian harm, ends up with Afghans and Iraqis and Somalians. I would really ask those who support trusting AI to be used in drones. What if your village was on the receiving end of that?
AI is a dual-edged sword. It can be used for good, which is what we would use it for ordinarily, and at the flip of a switch, the technology becomes potentially something that could be lethal. I'm a clinical pharmacologist. I have a team of people that are using artificial intelligence to figure out drugs that will cure diseases that are not getting any attention. It used to be with drug discovery, you would take a molecule that existed and do a tweak to that to get to a new drug. And now we've developed AI that can feed us with millions of ideas, millions of molecules. And that opens up so many possibilities for treating diseases that we've never been able to treat previously. But there's definitely a dark side that I never have thought that I would go to. This whole thing started when I was invited by an organization out of Switzerland called the Spies Laboratory to give a presentation on the potential misuse of AI.
Sean just sent me an email with a few ideas of some ways we could misuse our own artificial intelligence. And instead of asking our model to create drug-like molecules that could be used to treat diseases, let's see if we can generate the most toxic molecules possible.
I just wanted to make the point, could we use AI technology to design molecules that were deadly?
And to be honest, we thought it was going to fail because all we really did was flip this 0 to a 1.
And by inverting it, instead of driving away from toxicity, now we're driving towards toxicity. And that's it. While I was home, the computer was doing the work. I mean, it was cranking through, generating thousands of molecules, and we didn't have to do anything other than just push go.
The next morning, there was this file on my computer, and within it were roughly 40,000 molecules that were potentially some of the most toxic molecules known to humankind.
The hairs on the back of my neck literally stood up on end. I was blown away. And the computer made tens of thousands of ideas for new chemical weapons. Obviously, we have molecules that look like and are VX analogs and VX in the data set. VX is one of the most potent chemical weapons in the world.
New claims from police that the women seen attacking Kim Jong-nam in this airport assassination were using a deadly nerve agent called VX.
It can cause death through asphyxiation. This is a very potent molecule. And most of these molecules were predicted to be even more deadly than VX.
Many of them had never, as far as we know, been seen before. And so when Sean and I realized this, we're like, oh, what have we done?
I quickly realized that we had opened Pandora's box. And I said, stop. Don't do anything else. We're done. Just make me the slides that I need for the presentation. When we did this experiment, I was just thinking, what's the worst thing that could possibly happen? But now I'm like, we were naive. We were totally naive in doing it. The thing that terrifies me the most is that anyone could do what we did. All it takes is the flip of a switch. How do we control this technology before it's used potentially to do something that's utterly destructive?
At the heart of the conversation around artificial intelligence and how do we choose to use it in society is a race between the power with which we develop technologies and the wisdom that we have to govern it. There are the obvious moral and ethical implications of the same thing that powers our smartphones being entrusted with the moral decision to take a life. I work with the Future of Life Institute, a community of scientist activists.
You know, we're overall trying to show that there is this other side to speeding up and escalating automation.
We're trying to make sure that technologies we create are used in a way that is safe and ethical. There are things, let's have conversations about rules of engagement and codes of conduct and using AI throughout our weapon systems. Because we are now seeing enter the battlefield technologies that can be used to kill autonomously. In 2021, the UN released a report on the potential use of a lethal autonomous weapon on the battlefield in Libya.
A United Nations panel said that a drone flying in the Libyan civil war last year had been programmed to attack targets autonomously.
If the UN reporting is accurate, this would be a watershed moment for humanity because it marks a use case where an AI made the decision to take a life and not a human being.
You're seeing advanced autonomous weapons beginning to be used in different places around the globe. There were reports out of Israel. Azerbaijan used autonomous systems to target Armenian air defenses.
It can fly around the battlefield for hours, looking for things to hit on its own, and then plow into them without any kind of human intervention.
And we've seen recently these different videos that are posted in Ukraine.
It's unclear what mode they might have been in when they were operating. Was a human in the loop, choosing what targets to attack, or was the machine doing that on its own? But there will certainly come a point in time, whether it's already happened in Libya, Ukraine, or elsewhere, where a machine makes its own decision about whom to kill on the battlefield.
Machines exercising lethal power against humans without human intervention is politically unacceptable, morally repugnant. Whether the international community will be sufficient to govern those challenges is a big question mark.
If we look towards the future, even just a few years from now, what the landscape looks like is very scary, given that the amount of capital and human resource going into making AI more powerful and using it for all of these different applications is immense.
Oh my god, this guy. He knows he can't win. When I see AI win at different problems, I find it inspirational. Going for a little Hail Mary action. And you can apply those same tactics, techniques, procedures to real aircraft. Good game, good game. All right, good game.
It's surprising to me that people continue to make statements about what AI can't do. Right? Oh, it'll never be able to beat a world champion in chess.
An IBM computer has made a comeback in Game 2 of its match with world chess champion Garry Kasparov.
Whoa! Kasparov has resigned. When I see something that is well beyond my understanding, I'm scared. And that was something well beyond my understanding.
And then people would say, it'll never be able to beat a world champion in the game of Go.
아무래도 역시 아직은 인간의 직관력이나 이런 감각들을 컴퓨터인 인공지능이 따라오기에는 약간 무리가 있지 않나 이렇게 생각을 해서.
Go is one of the most complicated games anyone can learn because the number of moves on the board, when you do the math, equal more atoms than there are in the entire universe. There was a team at Google called DeepMind. They created a program called AlphaGo to be able to beat the world's best players.
Wow. Wow. Congratulations to
AlphaGo.
to AlphaGo. A computer program has just beaten the 9-9 professional.
And then DeepMind chose StarCraft as kind of their next AI challenge. StarCraft is perhaps the most popular real-time strategy game of all time. AlphaStar became famous when it started defeating world champions.
AlphaStar absolutely smashing Immortal Arc. You know what? This is not gonna be a fight that the Protoss can win. It's kind of ridiculous.
Professional gamers talk about, I would never try that tactic, I would never try that strategy. That's something that's not human. And that was perhaps, the aha moment for me. I came to realize the time is now. There's an important technology and there's an opportunity to make a difference. I only knew the problems that I had faced as a SEAL in close quarters combat. But one of my good friends, who was an F-18 pilot, told me we have the same problem in the fighter jet community. They are jamming communications. There are proliferated surface-to-air missile sites that make it too dangerous to operate. Imagine if we had a fighter jet that was commanded by an AI.
Welcome to the Alpha Dogfight Trials. We're a couple of minutes away from this first semifinal.
DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, had seen AlphaGo and AlphaStar. And so this idea of the Alpha Dogfight competition came to life.
Very much what you would want to see your human fighter pilots do.
This looks like human dogfighting.
Dogfighting is fighter-on-fighter aircraft going at it. You can think about it as a boxing match in the sky. Maybe people have seen the movie Top Gun.
Can we outrun these guys?
Not their missiles and guns.
Then it's a dogfight.
Learning to master dogfighting can take 8 to 10 years. It's an extremely complex challenge to build AI around.
prior approaches to autonomy and dogfighting tended to be kind of brittle. We just figured machine learning was probably the way to solve this problem. At first, the AI knew nothing about the world in which it was dropped. It didn't know it was flying, it didn't know what dogfighting was, it didn't know what an F-16 is. All it knew was the available actions it could take, and it would start to randomly explore those actions.
The Blue aircraft has been training for only a small amount of time. You can see it wobbling back and forth, flying very erratically, generally away from its adversary.
As the fight progresses, we can see Blue is starting to establish here its game plan. It's more in a position to shoot. Every once in a while, the learning algorithm said, here's a little cookie, that was good, keep doing more of that. We can take advantage of the compute power we have and train the agents many, many times in parallel. It's like a basketball team. Instead of playing the same team over and over and over again, you're traveling the world, playing 512 different teams all at the same time. You can get very good very fast. We were able to run that simulation 24/7 to get something like 30 years of pilot training time in 10 months. We went from barely able to control the aircraft to being just a stone cold assassin. Under training, we were competing only against other artificial intelligence. But competing against humans directly was kind of the ultimate target.
My name's Mike Benitez. I'm a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Air Force. Been on active duty about 25 years. We've got 250 combat missions, and I'm a weapons school graduate, which is like Air Force version of Top Gun. I've never actually flown against artificial intelligence, so I'm pretty excited to see how well I can do.
We got now a 6,000 feet offensive setup, nose to nose.
All right, fight's on.
It's going well.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting.
That's guttery.
Dead. Boom, got him. Flawless victory. All right, round two.
What the artificial intelligence is doing is maneuvering with such precision that I just can't keep up with it.
Right into the merge. Ooh, now you're gone. Got him.
Still got me.
An AI is never scared. There's a human emotional element in the cockpit that an AI just won't have. One of the more interesting strategies our AI developed was what we call the face shot. Usually, a human wants to shoot from behind because it's hard for them to shake you loose. They don't try face shots because they're playing a game of chicken. When we come head on, 3,000 feet away to 500 feet away can happen in a blink of an eye. You run a high risk of colliding. So humans don't try it. The AI, unless it's told to fear death, will not fear death.
Feels like I'm fighting against a human, but a human that has a reckless abandonment for safety.
He's not gonna survive this last one.
He doesn't have enough time. Good night.
I'm dead. It's humbling to know that I might not even be the best thing for this mission. And that thing could be something that replaces me one day.
Same 6K, 1,000 offset.
With this AI pilot commanding fighter aircraft, the winning is relentless, it's dominant, it's not just winning by wide range. It's, okay, how can we get that onto our aircraft? It's that powerful.
It's realistic to expect that AI will be piloting an F-16, and it will not be that far out.
If you're going up against an AI pilot that has a 99.99999% win rate, you don't stand a chance. When I think about one AI pilot being unbeatable, I think about what a team of 50 or 100 or 1,000 AI pilots can continue to achieve. Swarming is a team of highly intelligent aircraft that work with each other. They're sharing information about what to do, how to solve a problem. Swarming will be a game-changing and transformational capability to our military and our allies.
Target has been acquired, and the drones are tracking him.
All right, here comes the land.
The primary goal of the swarming research we're working on now is to deploy a large number of drones over an area that is hard to get to or dangerous to get to. The Army Research Lab has been supporting this particular research project. If you want to know what's in a location, but it's hard to get to that area, or it's a very large area, then deploying a swarm is a very natural way to extend the reach of individuals and collect information that is critical to the mission. So right now in our swarm deployment, we essentially give a single command to go track the target of interest. And then the drones go and do all of that on their own. Artificial intelligence allows the robots to move collectively as a swarm in a decentralized manner. In the swarms in nature that we see, there's no boss, no main animal telling them what to do. The behavior is emerging out of each individual animal following a few simple rules. And out of that grows this sort of emergent collective behavior that you see. What's awe-inspiring about swarms in nature is the graceful ability in which they move. It's as if they were built to be a part of this group. Ideally, what we'd love to see with our drone swarm is, much like in the swarm in nature, decisions being made by the group collectively. The other piece of inspiration for us comes in the form of reliability and resiliency. That swarm will not go down if one individual animal doesn't do what it's supposed to do. Even if one of the agents falls out or fails or isn't able to complete the task, the swarm will continue. And ultimately, that's what we'd like to have. We have this need in combat scenarios for identifying enemy aircraft, and it used to be we required one person controlling one robot. As autonomy increases, I hope we'll get to see a large number of robots being controlled by a very small number of people. I see no reason why we couldn't achieve 1,000 eventually. because each agent will be able to act of its own accord, and sky's the limit.
We can, scale our learning.
We've been working on swarming in simulation for quite some time, and it is time to bring that to real-world aircraft.
We expect to be doing 3 robots at once over the network, and then starting to add more and more capabilities.
We want to be able to test that on smaller systems, but take those same concepts and apply them to larger systems, like a fighter jet.
We talk a lot about how do you give a platoon the combat power of a battalion, or a battalion the combat power of a brigade. You can do that with swarming, and when you can unlock that power of swarming, you have just created a new strategic deterrence to military aggression.
I think the most exciting thing is the number of young men and women who we will save if we really do this right. And we trade machines rather than human lives.
Some argue that autonomous weapons will make warfare more precise and more humane, but it's actually difficult to predict exactly how autonomous weapons might change warfare ahead of time. It's just like the invention of the Gatling gun. Richard Gatling was an inventor, and he saw soldiers coming back wounded in the Civil War and wanted to find ways to make warfare more humane, to reduce the number of soldiers that were killed in war by reducing the number of soldiers on the battlefield. And so we invented the Gatling gun, an automated gun turned by a crank that could automate the process of firing. It increased effectively by 100-fold the firepower that soldiers could deliver. Oftentimes, efforts to make warfare more precise and humane can have the opposite effect.
Think about the effect of one errant drone strike in a rural area that drives the local populace against the United States, against the local government, supposedly the good guys. Now, magnify that by 1,000.
The creation of a weapon system that is cheap, scalable, and doesn't require human operators drastically changes the actual barriers to conflict. It keeps me up at night to think of a world where war is ubiquitous, and we no longer carry the human and financial cost of war because we're just so far removed from the lives that will be lost.
This whole thing is haunting me. I just needed an example of artificial intelligence misuse. The unanticipated consequences of doing that simple thought experiment have gone way too far. When I gave the presentation on the toxic molecules created by AI technology, the audience's jaws dropped.
The next decision was whether we should publish this information. On one hand, you want to warn the world of these sorts of capabilities, but on the other hand, you don't want to give somebody the idea if they had never had it before. We decided it was worth publishing to maybe find some ways to mitigate the misuse of this type of AI before it occurs.
The general public's reaction was shocking. We can actually see the metrics on the page, like how many people have accessed it. The kinds of articles that we normally write, we're lucky if we get, a few thousand people look at our article over a period of a year or multiple years.
It was 10,000 people had read it within a week. Then it was 20,000. Then it was 30,000. Then it was 40,000. And we were up to 10,000 people a day.
We've done The Economist, the Financial Times, Radio Lab, they reached out. I've heard of Radio Lab. But then the reactions turned into this thing that's out of control. when we look at those tweets, it's like, oh my God, could they do anything worse? Why did they do this? And then we got an invitation I never would have anticipated. There was a lot of discussion inside the White House about the article, and they wanted to talk to us urgently. Obviously, it's an incredible honor to be able to talk to people at this level, but then it hits you like, oh my goodness, it's the White House, the boss. This involved putting together data sets that were open source.
And within about 6 hours, the model was able to generate over 40.
They asked questions about how much computing power you needed. And we told them that it was nothing special, literally a standard run-of-the-mill 6-year-old Mac.